a gun in the face.
Then all of a sudden, they all kind of lined up. They pointed their guns at me. And this is the point where I thought, I'm going to die today.
Started 2 years of horror for an American in Venezuela.
They said, you need to give us your phone and get ready because you're coming with us.
I'm Becky Bruce, and I spent a year researching and piecing together Josh and Tammy Holt's story about their ordeal in a notorious prison.
That's when everything started to turn bad. We had another pound on the door. Boom, boom, boom. And there was the police once again.
You can binge all of the episodes of Hope in Darkness on kslpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Project Recovery. I am Casey Scott. This is my co-host, Dr. Matt Woolley.
How you doing, Casey?
I'm doing well. I just heard the strangest thing, and mind you, I've been in rehab, so I've heard a lot of strange things.
Yeah?
I heard a girl in the office go, "Do you think hand sanitizer will get Chinese food out of my hair?" You know my response? Worth a shot.
It is worth a shot.
Worth a shot.
Especially since we don't have to do it. We could just watch her do it.
Yeah. So we'll find that out in the next episode if it actually worked. It's Project Recovery. It's a podcast all about recovery. Now, in the previous episodes, we've talked a lot about alcohol, but we want this podcast to be about all things recovery, from porn to social to eating to, just you name it.
Yeah, there are a lot of behavioral addictions. Gambling, maybe the one that gets the most press. I think people recognize that as an addiction of sorts. And what's interesting is how they are behavioral, but they're also biological. They're neurological. When something good happens, like you win at poker or something like that, you get this dopamine release in your brain.
You get a lot of likes on your Instagram.
You probably do.
No, I mean, I really do. I mean,
when you win at poker?
No, I'm just saying. When I post something on Instagram,
yeah.
If I get a bunch of likes, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good. And if I don't,
so social media, absolutely. When you post something that hits that dopamine receptor, and it becomes a neurological thing. So it is behavioral, but the reality is it's very biological.
All right, now I got to tell you this before I forget it. I was talking to my girlfriend about the podcast, and I thought of this, and I don't even know if this is deep or if this is just stupid, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I will.
What's the worst of the two addictions, mental or physical?
Mental or physical? I have a hard time separating the two, and I think the mental is the worst, though, of the two. They do very much go together, but a lot of people can kick the physical for periods of time. It's the mental that often pulls them back in.
Okay.
Was that your answer?
No, I was like, I don't know.
Oh, they had a deep answer.
No, I don't have a deep answer.
Oh, okay.
My question was the deep part. It's like, I was like, I don't know what's worse.
Yeah.
I mean, because I thought similar that, the physical you can, after I went to rehab, I did 45 days without beer, so I knew that that wasn't going to kill me.
Take smoking, for example.
Okay.
A lot of people, I have a really good friend, probably the first friend of my whole life. We were preschoolers together. He has been on, I think, every drug possible. He's had addiction problems his whole life.
Uppers, downers, lefters, righters, bingers, bangers.
Those are the ones.
Yep.
And he has been clean for quite a while now, with the exception of cigarettes. And nicotine has some physiological properties that are hard, but you know what? It's the social, mental part of nicotine that can be really hard for people. People smoke together, it's social, and you feel excluded when you don't. So there's an example of kind of a person can stop smoking for a while, but sometimes it's the social and mental factors that bring them back in.
So I was a smoker for 20 years. I quit on my daughter's 4th birthday. That's what she wanted for her birthday.
Really?
Yeah, so I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I did Chantix, and that got me off of it. But for the 2 years after I stopped smoking, still smoking free, I would get into my car and I'd roll the window down.
Yeah.
Because I used to always smoke in the car.
Those habits are
and
so strong.
I mean, I hadn't been smoking for 2 years and still get in and unroll the window.
Yeah. Were you that guy that tries to spray stuff in the car and then pretend you didn't smoke in it when you sell it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah. Spray a little Elsha in there. Do you remember Elsha?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good
I
smell.
had a bottle. Never
Elsha
worked for
fart
me.
and cigarette smoke. Can't believe somebody bought that.
Yeah.
Hey, so Project Recovery, we like to tell your stories. And, of course, you can go to our ksltv.com webpage.
Right.
And you can upload your stories. You can also email me or Matt and just kind of say hi to us, and we try try to respond to them all.
We respond. We've been reading through people's stories, and we want to get to know people, our listeners, a little bit more because I think they have a lot of value to add to this program to help other people.
Although everyone's story is a little different, I think there's similarities in stories where someone might go, oh, I do that, and that might be a catch for them and go, well, maybe I should take a look at this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this platform is so powerful. I remember when I first started doing radio on the end years and years ago, I would say, oh, this is a problem for people, and we'd get a flood of responses saying, I didn't know anybody else did that. I
thought
know
I was
anybody
alone.
else had that problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've been acutely aware over the, at least 10, 12 years, however long ago that was, that when people reach out and share what's going on with them, other people really connect with that, and it's powerful. It's helpful in change. People change better when they're connected with other people that are going through similar things.
All right, so we want to show Northern Utah a little love today. I myself am from Ogden, class of 92. Ogden High School football rules. And we got Dr. Matt, who went to Morgan High School.
Morgan High School, 1990.
Yeah, and what was your mascot?
The Trojans.
But we've got Dustin Hawkins here. He's a Bonneville Laker and a friend of mine, and he's got a kind of a unique story. So we're going to call you Hawk because that's what people in war call you, right?
You're right. Yeah, that's
All right.
fine.
So, Dustin, you graduated Bonneville in 1998.
Right.
You knew my ex-wife.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we're a small community up there, but we like to help each other out. And when I started this podcast, I talked to you. And, before I even went to my rehab, we had talked and had conversations about kind of me. And you could probably see some of the cracks in the wall. I mean, you observe it pretty good, right?
Yeah, when you're I've been working with people. Let's see, I started war in 2010, so I've been working with people coming up on 9 or 10 years, and yeah, that you get good at seeing people that are battling with it all. So I think when me and you were talking, I definitely could.
You could vibe it.
Vibe that maybe you had a little battle going on,
Should we define for the listeners what war is so that they don't get the wrong idea?
War is workout addiction recovery, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But before we even get to war, let's start with your story, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Yeah, so I grew up just in Ogden, went to Bonneville. I played sports, football, baseball, basketball. Ended up kind of excelling in baseball. And I actually got drafted out of high school by the Cardinals organization, but ended up taking a baseball scholarship instead to Wichita State University.
Now, before you got drafted out of high school, were you partying at all?
I started partying my senior year after football, and I remember I liked it. I liked to drink, got into smoking weed, taking mushrooms. I'll never forget the first time I took pills in high school, how much I liked that, like lower tabs. Something that's interesting that happened to me in high school is I remember we were going to try to buy beer, and my buddy had a bottle of like lower tabs, like 20 lower tabs or something, and the guy working at the cash register, we were getting ready to buy beer, and somehow he found out he had these pills, and we're underage. And this guy traded us gave us beer, underage kids for that little pill bottle. And I remember thinking, as a kid thinking, man, this is wild how that guy risked a lot for that little pill bottle.
You thought that?
I remember thinking that as a kid, like, what are those pills?
Mm-hmm. Are they gold?
Yeah, like, why would he do that? Why was he so stoked? He's handing us beer out of his store.
So totally illegal.
Totally illegal. And I remember that was when I linked on. I was like, man, should we have kept the pills? And just stuff like that,
Did you have any thought about, that this guy may be addicted or has a problem, or was it just like, wow, these are valuable, I didn't realize it?
Yeah, like I remember the look on his face. I specifically remember and just how like stoked he was on that he was going to get.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just amazing what those.
The reason I asked, you probably did see that on his face, because when an addict is about to partake of their drug of choice, their brain starts to react as if they've already had it. Their brain prepares their body for taking that drug. And so he was already starting to feel good, even though he hadn't had those yet. He was, that mouth-watering sort of experience.
I know
So
the
you started
feeling.
drinking your senior year, you experimented with other drugs, and we just heard about the pain pills, and then you get drafted.
Right. Got drafted by the Cardinals organization in I think it was the 35th round.
Which is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
thinking a boy from Ogden, Utah.
Right.
I mean, the pressure had to be there.
Yeah, it was, I remember my dad counseled me. My dad played in the Boston Red Sox organization and played for BYU. And so he kind of counseled me that it would be a better decision to go out to Wichita State. And Wichita State at the time was a top 10 program in the nation,
I think it's one of the best colleges ever.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, so he and I, that's where I went to school.
Oh, that's where
Yeah.
the eye
And
looks are coming from?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're giving each other some shocker love 'cause
Yeah.
we're both shockers, right?
Okay.
That is
Yeah.
wild.
Isn't that crazy? We
So you guys
found
went to
out-
college at the same
We were
year?
there the same time.
Wow.
He was there doing undergrad. I was
Right.
there doing my master's and PhD, and we never went, cross paths. But I went to some of the Wichita State baseball games while we were
Right.
there. Took my kids to them. They were a great organization. And in the past, prior to that, they'd won the College World Series. I
Oh,
mean, they're a
yeah.
really good
Yeah.
baseball school. Yeah.
So you're a young kid out of Ogden. You're now living in Wichita.
Yeah, so I move out to Wichita, and I'm opened up to just a scene that I'd never quite, all my roommates from Oklahoma and Texas and Kansas, and so I'm seeing this, and these guys partied. I mean, and I remember, I was so new to drinking. I remember having a heart, when you first start drinking beer, I remember having to have crackers, to try to get them and being kind of embarrassed because these guys have been drinking beer since 7th grade, so I got into this party scene, which was, I don't regret any of it. I had a great time. I ended up having a shoulder surgery, about 6 weeks into my freshman season. We're in an inter-squad game, and there's this left-handed pitcher. He ended up being in the big leagues, 94, 95. And he hits me in the back and knocks the wind out of me, right? So I'm running up first base, and I'm already scared. I'm an 18-year-old kid playing with all these men at this big-time college.
And 95 miles an hour. I can't even imagine standing in there on that.
So, I'm in shock, kind of on first base, just think, what had happened? Wind's knocked out of me, and I take my lead at first, and he picks over. He's lefty, and I dive back and dislocate my shoulder. And so they got to take me to the hospital. They can't get it in. Anyway, I end up having surgery. They give me the script, and I remember this is where I started linking up the power of those pills for me. As I remember, we'd play hacky sack up on the top floor of our dorm, all of us, and I never really was into hacky sack. I just couldn't.
That says good things about it.
But I throw a couple Percocet 10s in the back of my throat with a couple beers.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, hacky sack is so fun. I remember thinking that, that the power of those. And that was when I started being like, man, these are fun to party on. These are fun to drink on. These make me more talkative. My worst enemy now becomes my best friend.
So let me ask you this. Do you think you were taking them to make mundane situations fun, or do you think you were taking them to kind of mask something that was going on inside of you? Or can you even tell at this point?
Well, at this, I just remember I liked the conversations it led me to having with people. I liked how social I would be. I remember having to go to practice because I couldn't practice that whole fall. And I had this script with a refill or whatever, and I remember going to practice and just being stoked to be at practice on those pills. Mm-hmm. My arm in a sling and just talking to everybody. It was so fun. Then I started linking it up it's fun to go to a movie on these things. Let's go see a movie. That movie was sick. Way funner. And then going to the bar, take 2 of these. I'm more talkative, this is. And so, you start linking that thinking up, and then that becomes dangerous. I mean, looking back.
Do you feel, can I interrupt, do you feel like you struggled with some social anxiety? It kind of sounds like maybe you were describing that, and now you felt free from that social anxiety, right?
I think I've always had a little social anxiety. And, insecurities and being out there alone with just leaving my family.
It's hard being 18 and being out there all by yourself.
But you know what? That's why I like these stories, because I'm seeing the similarities in my stories. But mine weren't pain pills. Mine were Bud Lights. And so, I mean, Bud Lights made hacky sack better. It made movies better.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to keep beating up hacky sack.
No, it's okay. I think hacky sack needs something to make it better.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's what this podcast is about, is sharing the stories, because you'll find some similarities in there. And
absolutely.
And a lot of what he's talking about is a lot of what I was doing.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so was what? So I ended up kind of becoming the guy who, like, if someone had surgery, so like I remember this girl on the volleyball team had surgery, and what do I think? Like, oh yeah, I'm hitting her up, Hey, and throughout.
See, most guys would be thinking, she's on the volleyball team, she's going to have nice legs, and you're thinking, she's got a full prescription of pain pills.
Yeah, can I get some of those? Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of how college went. I started getting into it. I didn't really get bit hard, but I mean, the thing is, I found out about myself is I could party hard and still play, and that was dangerous because like I'd roll. I was pretty functioning. I'd roll to class, a night drinking 15 beers and taking pills, and wake up and go to class and make it happen and go practice all day.
So I was going to ask, how did it affect? Like, do you think your grades suffered, or did you do well?
Well, I mean, I got a college degree, and school was never easy for me.
And the opiate epidemic has become a term that we use now, but it wasn't back then. This is late 90s, early 2000s.
Let me ask you this. What was your thought about this? Did you consider this a drug, or did you consider it something different because you got it from the hospital and you weren't buying it on the corner and it wasn't in the bottom of a Ziploc bag?
No, I didn't. I thought it was better than drinking beer.
Yeah, because it was a prescription,
it was just
right?
a prescription. And I'd go to these host families, so I'd go off to summer ball every summer. So my first summer I was in Washington, D.C., and then I started going, and these host families that I'd stay with, I'm going through their cabinets. Like now I started thinking, they probably got some. You know what I'm saying? And so all these signs started linking to me, like, and I still never really, I was still always having the mentality, like, I'm playing good, like, things are going good, like, I'm not doing them all the time.
So you felt driven to seek these pills out, but you didn't quite realize you had a problem, or did you?
No, I didn't realize that, like,
because you were functional.
Yeah, I always knew I'd like it, because I'd run into them, and then I'd get away from them.
Okay.
But I'm still partying and smoking weed. And
back to kind of Casey's comment, I think one of the things we see a lot is, here in Utah especially, and around the country, people see this as a medical prescription, so they have that mentality. Maybe it's better for me than illegal drugs or drinking a lot of alcohol. Back in those days, were you able to fill that prescription way beyond what you really physically needed? I think that was common back then.
Yeah, so I was never...
Did the doctors try to make you stop or anything?
No, it was never, there was no awareness around it, back then. There really wasn't, not like today. I mean...
Now it's something that we talk about, but we didn't back then.
Even when I was taking them out of people's medicine cabinets, the way that I justified it was like, I'd look at the date. Oh, these been in here for like 6 months. They don't even need them. So I've justified like, I'm not like, they're not in pain. This is just an old prescription. And then, and it just relaxes me. It makes me more talkative. Like it was never, I thought I had more of a problem with drinking and partying, like when I could always shut drinking down, but then, looking back, I could clearly see that I was an alcoholic drug addict. But like I always, because I competed and like stayed on all my stuff, I always felt like.
Well, I think that awareness, it sounds like, was developing at that time. But now we look back, you can see the problem was developing. But when you're in that moment, and this is, I want to stress for the listeners, when you're in that moment, you don't, if you can be functional, if you haven't lost your job, if you're still playing sports and doing things, and in fact, if you see some benefit, the reason I asked about social anxiety is that's one of the things I work with people on. And social and other types of anxiety, people have a high tendency to want to mask that, dull it. So alcohol, pills are very, very common. And so you're feeling some benefit even, and maybe that awareness hadn't fully kicked in yet.
Yeah, I mean, huge benefit. Even going, so I got into taking Xenadrin. Do you remember Xenadrin?
Yeah, that's not prescribed
it's
anymore.
It was ephedrine back then.
Back then.
Ephedrine pills. So during the day, I was taking ephedrine pills. So I remember I'd set my alarm for 6:30 and have a class at 7:30. Set my alarm, have my 2 Xenadrin right by my desk with a bottle of water.
And tell the listeners what that did for you.
So I'd take the 2 Xenadrin, fall back asleep, and then let the Xenadrin wake me up as they kicked in.
Yep.
And then I was like ready, 30 minutes later, it's noon. But it's still morning, but I felt like it was noon, like I'm ready to go to class. I attribute a lot of my passing classes being hung over to ephedrine.
So you're doing uppers in the morning.
Uppers all day, and then before practice, before games, I'm doing the ephedrine pills. And then so looking back, then it made me, you're taking all that, and then I'm just like, I need to drink to come down at night.
Well, we're going to let you take a drink right now. We're going to take a break. Coming back a little more with Dustin Hawkins in the War Program. So if you're wondering, the drink Dustin just took was water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I was a little concerned.
No.
That-
When Casey Scott makes you a drink?
Yeah.
I gotcha. Project Recovery back and running. So now you left us with ephedrine was getting you through college.
Yeah, the ephedrine, and I didn't think that was any big deal. You buy it at GNC, and, so I go through this college experience and had a pretty good career. Ended up my senior year, I ended up getting, but I was plagued with injuries. Looking back, I can tell why. My senior year, I ended up being, the most valuable player of the team. I ended up getting drafted again, but this time by the Houston Astros organization. And so I go into the Astros, and I go out to Martinsville, Virginia. It was where our rookie ball was.
Okay, now before you finish that real quick, I would just want to ask you, do you think you were the only collegiate person on your team suffering from the same kind of abuse you're putting your body through?
I think for how I linked up the pills, for sure, how I was, because I remember my guys on my team would be like, dude, you're always taking pills, making comments to me, and it always made me insecure, like, yeah, why do I want to take, why do I need ephedrine, why do I need to, anytime any one of these guys has pills, I always felt like shame, like something's wrong with me.
So it was kind of on the down low. You were trying to take, but you couldn't keep it private enough. They were noticing.
Yeah,
and it obviously wasn't a team culture because they were wondering why you were doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it was the culture was to drink and party, mostly. Yeah. I didn't see many other guys doing pills like I was.
I feel
doing.
a little exhausted thinking about this ups and downs and ups and downs. Did that bother? You said something interesting a minute ago. You said, looking back on it, I know why I was injured so much. Can you expound on that? Does that have anything to do with the ups and downs?
Well, yeah. I mean, just not being able to be consistent. My junior year, I had a really bad year. I was hurt the whole year. Couldn't put it all together consistently, and I was, and it's just like when you're up and down like that in your mood, it's almost like you're a different person in the morning. And at practice, then at night, you're a different person. Now I'm leaning on alcohol and 6 Tylenol PMs.
Wow.
That's another thing. Yeah. I was getting into Tylenol, like taking something
to get you down,
to get me down. And so yeah. Looking back, for sure, I could I have been a much better baseball player? Absolutely, I really believe, because how do you get? Because
look how well you did on drugs.
Yeah, how
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
right.
And I think it's interesting because there are some people, natural talents, physical capacity, all of that, they might be able to tolerate that. But what you were doing to yourself, most regular humans, I don't think would be able to make it to class consistently, let alone play baseball.
Yeah, I just heard my dad saying, "Hey, don't mess this up."
Yeah, you heard that.
But that's
voice.
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, and I look as a kid too. I always wanted to be like my dad.
Me too.
He's the freaking played. He played in the Red Sox organization, so I always kind of felt like, man, I need to.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's looking back, man, I don't even know if baseball was my favorite sport. think I liked football better.
Did you?
Yeah. But I think baseball was just kind of my
well,
opportunity.
sometimes we, we're a little bit. It's hard to find yourself. You try to be a lot like your dad, and if your dad was a professional athlete, then that's a pretty high bar. Tell us what happened when you went out to spring ball for the first time for the Astros.
So I went to the Astros organization and started out amazing. Started out the season incredible. And I'll never forget this. I had the night off. They'll give you the night, sometimes they'll give players a night off, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm hanging out down in the bullpen, and this dude's like, hey, man, I got an Adderall. Like, have you ever tried Adderall? And I was like, no. He's like, well, it's kind of like you're a veteran, but better. And I'm like, he's like, just take it. You're not playing tonight. Try it, So I take this Adderall, and it's like the third inning, and I'm chilling, and like same thing. And this is interesting. So when I was a kid, I was put on Ritalin when I was 9 or 8, having a hard time in school.
Yeah.
I'm struggling, and I remember this walk to school when I first started taking it, the first day I ever took Ritalin. I'm walking to school as a 9-year-old, and I remember all of a sudden, like, being talkative, the same stuff I'm talking about, and, like, I remember thinking, man, this walk to school is so fun. This is as a 9-year-old.
I'm seeing a theme.
And so then I would take another Adderall at noon. Mm-hmm. This is
back in the day when they had the.
And I remember taking it and thinking, as I had found out about them, thinking, yes, I'm excited to take this. This is going to make the rest of the day fun. And then I remember dreading the end of the day. So this is a 9-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So I'm getting in this baseball, or I take this Adderall, and I hadn't touched Adderall, or my mom pulled the plug after a year.
For the listener, Adderall and Ritalin are very similar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And so I'm sitting there same deal. I'm like, oh, dude, I feel amazing, and I automatically create this awareness around it. So the guy that's pitching against us is throwing a no-hitter against our team. And the coach is like, it's like the 8th inning, and he's like, hey, we want you to, go in there and pinch hit, So I get up, go in the game, and the ball looked like it was a football. It looked, I could see, everything was, I'm sitting
Your
up.
Your spider senses were going.
They're just unbelievable. I'm fouling off pitches, just having this unbelievable at bat. I end up hitting a double to break up the no-hitter. I'm on second base. The very next pitch, I steal third.
Wow.
I'm just juiced, and I remember thinking, I'm never playing a baseball game again without this.
Wow.
And that's when I got into Adderall. Hard. My whole career, my whole baseball career, I went hard on amphetamines, and it was even worse, right? So going to the off seasons always became a nightmare. I partied. That's when I got it. I ended up getting into morphine pills. The oxys were coming out, so I was starting to experiment with these bigger pills. Still didn't get bit hard by them. My second year in pro ball, I go to Lexington, Kentucky, and now I was doing Adderall hard, like snorting them. And a point in Lexington, I remember I'm having a horrible season, and I wouldn't know it. I didn't know it, though. I did not know it because I was so euphoric. I remember, so I'd had a routine, when I would take it before, snort them before, then right before the game, I'd go in and do some more. And then the 3rd inning, I'm doing some more. The 6th inning, right? So my baseball season turned into not about baseball. It was about getting high now. You know what I'm saying? I remember standing in the outfield thinking, when is this going to be over? I just want to go party.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so now
the fun was gone.
The fun was gone. It was more about getting high, and then I'm leaning on Xanax. Now I'm into Xanax and doing all the pills to bring me down, and I'm drinking way more now because when you do Adderall like that, you can drink.
And this is only over the space of this is just your second.
Well, this is my
year.
third year.
Third year.
This is my 3rd year. I'm sorry, in Lexington.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's a relatively short time to go from one Adderall pill making you feel like Superman to what you're describing now. That's pretty quick de-evolution of your ability, to play baseball.
Yeah, like I said, the off seasons, I got more into the opiates and more into the pill world as a whole. Like I was saying, the Xanax and morphine pills. I really got one off season. I remember getting into morphine pills hard. And anyway,
Before you go any further, let me ask you this. So he talked about 3-year span, and it accelerated pretty quick.
Right.
At any point, did anybody on the team, your teammates or players, come up to you and go, "Hey, you might want to take a look at this," or did going, "Hey, there's some cracks," or your performance is changing? Had anyone try to do anything or talk to you about it?
Yeah. So I got my buddy caught me stealing his pills. He had some pills. I was going through his thing, and I took them all. There was he had I don't know, 14 or 15 lower tab 10s or something, and he had went his thing and realized they were all gone and confronted me, and I was so embarrassed. I tried to lie, and then finally I tell him, and so I ended up failing a drug test. Test for opiates, amphetamine, and weed. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I didn't even think that anybody knew about how I was. But now when I talk to these guys, nowadays, they were all talking about me.
Oh, yeah.
See, there's the similarities. Me too, because you get so in your addict brain and you think that you're so good at smoothing things over or telling people what they want to hear. And most of the time you're talking to people, they know, they just don't want to have that conversation with you because they know you're going to lie to them and you're just going to break their heart. So, either,
you create your own world that other people see, but you don't think they see it.
Yeah.
And why didn't they? Have they told you why they didn't confront you more directly about it?
I think it was just everybody likes Hawk that's on pills. Everybody likes Hawk that's partying with them, and maybe they just, I don't know.
And you're still in touch with these guys, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say they cared about you and you cared about them.
Yeah.
You're still friends.
Oh, yeah, good friends.
How do you think you would have, this is hindsight, right? But how do you think you would have reacted? Do you wish they would have been more direct, had some kind of intervention, or?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to tell because I don't know if they knew the extent. Mm-hmm. I don't think they knew the extent of how
so
much
when you
I
were
was
snorting
doing.
And doing all this during the games, that was in private. You were trying to hide it.
Oh, no one knew. No way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was sly about it, and but it affected my performance. I mean, I had the worst season ever.
But you said earlier you thought you didn't realize you were playing so poorly.
I had no idea.
Why do you think that was?
Because I was so high.
Yeah.
You get on those amphetamines, right? They make you think that you. I mean, I remember I always could put the ball in play. I was a leadoff hitter, and I'm striking out a couple times a game, and I remember thinking, you're so euphoric that it's not real. So I'm striking. It's all good, man. Let's keep going.
I'll get it the next time.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. And I'm,
artificial optimism, maybe, huh?
There was a time I hit a triple to lead off the game. Mm-hmm. I round third, slide into third, and pass out.
Wow.
Briefly pass out, just kind of I was and then I had to act like I was sick to come out of the game. Mm-hmm. But my heart was going so hard, my lips, I couldn't feel my lips because you got this crowd of 6,000 people. I'm juiced on Adderall, speed, and then hit a triple, and I'm running. My heart. I mean, I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to you failed your first drug test.
Right.
3 things: amphetamines,
opiates, and weed.
And so what did that do, and what was the repercussions of that?
So it was interesting because I failed it at the very end of the season. I had 2 weeks left.
Why did they test you? Did they test everybody?
They randomly drug tested that time, and I was one of them. And I tried to get around it with one of those drinks, trying to pass the drug test, and it didn't work. So my trainer called me I went home off season when they had got the results back, and he says, "Hey, you failed the drug test," and I said, "All right, man, I know." he said, "All right, well, we're gonna talk this over, and I'll get back to you." I didn't hear anything back. That whole off season was a nightmare.
Did you think maybe I should stop at this point, or did you continue using?
Yeah, I definitely knew at this point that like I was in trouble. It almost made it worse. It almost made it like I almost got at the point where I was like, I just want to be done with baseball anyway.
But see, because I asked that question because we often talk on this show about our rock bottom.
Right.
And for some, failing that test and having your Major League Baseball career put on hold or even end because of that could be considered a rock bottom for some.
Yeah.
You know, and family and friends might see that and go, "Oh, he got this. This is his rock bottom."
You're shaking your head though, huh?
No, that wasn't at all my rock bottom. I mean, I was so kind of just like I'm not worried about it. I'm done with baseball anyway. So
instead of feeling like you hit
feeling
rock
like
bottom,
a rock bottom, I kept an arrogant attitude about it. You know what I'm saying? And
choosing the drugs over the
yeah,
baseball.
just like whatever, you know.
I got this.
Yeah, I got it. And then so that off season, same deal. I go into spring training.
You know what? Let's stop you right there. Let's come back and do another episode, and we'll pick up with spring training. You're listening to Project Recovery. Thank you to everyone in your support of Project Recovery. Please tell your friends. Give us a rating. Hit the subscribe button. Thanks to Dr. Matt, Dustin Hawkins, our producer, John, the music's too loud, Smith, and everyone at KSL for putting this out there. Project Recovery is a KSL podcast.